Dad, Linda, I conducted DNA tests on our children. They share the same father, but that father is not me. It is him, he said, pointing at his father. Linda's face turned pale, and Felix struggled to find words. William, you have to understand. Felix started, but William cut him off, his voice filled with anger. Understand what, Dad? That you both betrayed me? That you both made a fool of me for years? Son, I didn't have a choice. You are impotent. I didn't want your wife to go out looking for a man. I did what I thought was best for our family, to protect our lineage, to protect you, his father said. He is impotent? How? What is his father talking about? William had gone for a fertility check before he married Linda and was given a clean bill. What was his father talking about? But before he could ask him that, Linda opened her mouth and what she said was like an electric shock to William's whole system. Williams, I know you're hurting right now, but I'm glad you finally found out. I never loved you. Your father is the one I've always loved, but because your mother was still around, I couldn't marry him then, so I married you to stay close to him. It all started one day when William and his friends were in a bar drinking. David, one of their friends, joined them looking dejected. Guys, I'm finished, he said. Last week, during a medical emergency, David learned that his blood type did not match his son's, so he conducted a DNA test with the boy. The results came in that day, confirming his worst fear. The child was not biologically his. William and his friends rallied around him, offering words of encouragement. I think we should all do a DNA test with our children, one of the guys said. While William sympathized with David, he wasn't concerned about his children being his or not. He trusts his wife. William had close to a perfect family, and he always considered himself a fortunate man. He had a loving wife, Linda, whom he adored, three wonderful children, two boys and a girl, and his father Felix, who lived with them, and together they formed a strong unit. His love for Linda was unwavering, and he trusted her completely. She was a full housewife who took pride in taking care of her husband, her children, and her father in law. Lillian didn't even keep friends. According to her, having friends around meant surrounding yourself with drama, and she hated drama. So William took immense pride in their harmonious household. The fact that his wife and children lived in harmony with his father brought him great happiness. He often reflected on his blessings, feeling grateful for the love and unity that surrounded him. Love and unity brought about by his loving wife. As all his friends made a pact to conduct DNA tests for their children, William insisted he didn't need to do it. William, you need to do this. You never know what might be hidden. You should learn from what happened to me, David advised. But William, however, was confident in his marriage to Linda. I trust Linda completely. There's no need for a test, but others were insistent. For your own peace of mind, just do it. Imagine living without doubt, always wondering. Just do it, William. They all urged William, but he maintained his stand. However, as days passed, the conversation haunted him. He found himself constantly questioning what if. Eventually, unable to shake the feeling, he decided to conduct the DNA test in secret so he could at least have a peace of mind. When the results arrived, however, William was devastated. His children were not biologically his. His three children shared the same father, but it was not him. According to the DNA results, he and his children were siblings. The shock paralyzed him. He couldn't believe that Linda, who he had loved and trusted so deeply, could betray him, and most importantly, with his own father. 11 years ago, when his mother fell ill and he brought her to his house so she could receive proper medical care, he had hired Linda to take care of her. She was an orphan and a maid, but her gentle and sunny nature attracted him. So, despite their different backgrounds, William fell in love with her and married her. Even when Linda insisted she did not want to work or run a business, he allowed her to become a stay at home wife and provided everything she needed, including a maid and a cook. William reminisced about the early days of their relationship, the way they would spend evenings talking about their dreams and plans. William believed they had built a solid foundation of trust, and as he looked through old photographs, he remembered happiness he once felt. The picture of their family holidays and simple moments at home captured Linda, always with a smile that lit up the room. William's heart ached at the thought of her betrayal. He couldn't understand it. She didn't cheat once, but cheated throughout their 10 years of marriage. His first son, Prince, was 9 years old and wasn't his. It means she was already sleeping with his father even while his mother was still alive. William sat alone in his study and stared at the DNA test result. How could this be? He muttered to himself. How could they do this to me? Maybe the results were wrong. Maybe his father wasn't responsible. William could not bring himself to accept that his own father had been sleeping with his wife for years. He needed answer but was too afraid to do anything. One night, unable to sleep, William walked through the quiet house, stopping outside his children's bedrooms. He watched them sleeping, their innocent faces unaware of the turmoil surrounding them. I have to protect them, he thought. I need to know the truth. With that decision made, he secretly conducted another DNA test, but this time between his children and his father. The result was positive. Felix was the biological father of all three children. William was devastated. His mind raced back to family gatherings, holidays, and he remembered how Felix had always had a special smile for Linda and how he seemed to avoid his gaze at times. It all began to make sense now. After his mother died, his father had moved in permanently with them. His excuse had been that he was lonely and needed his family around him. William didn't mind, but he was worried about Linda. But she said it was okay, so he stayed. After he moved in, he spent most of his time with the children, doting on them. William remembered asking him one time why he spent so much time with the children. His father had replied that he didn't spend enough time with Williams, and now he was making it up with his grandchildren. At the time, William had appreciated his father's involvement, believing it was out of love for the family. But now, it all made sense in a horrifying way. But the truth was too painful to bear. How could his father do this to him? Unable to bear the weight of his discovery anymore, William decided to confront Linda and his father. He chose a quiet evening when the children were asleep. Linda, Dad, we need to talk, William began. His voice trembled as he addressed them. What is it, babe? Linda asked, being her usual loving self. Yes, son, what's wrong? You don't look alright. His father asked, worried. Dad, Linda, I conducted DNA tests on our children. They share the same father, but that father is not me. It is him, he said, pointing at his father. Linda's face turned pale, and Felix struggled to find words. William, you have to understand. Felix started, but William cut him off, his voice filled with anger. Understand what, Dad? That you both betrayed me? That you both made a fool of me for years? Son, I didn't have a choice. You are impotent. I didn't want your wife to go out looking for a man. I did what I thought was best for our family, to protect our lineage, to protect you, his father said. He is impotent? How? What is his father talking about? William had gone for a fertility check before he married Linda and was given a clean bill. What was his father talking about? But before he could ask him that, Linda opened her mouth and what she said was like an electric shock to William's whole system. Williams, I know you're hurting right now, but I'm glad you finally found out. I never loved you. Your father is the one I've always loved. But because your mother was still around, I couldn't marry him then. So I married you to stay close to him. Williams couldn't believe it. The woman he had loved and cherished for 11 years never loved him. She had always been in love with his father. How? Son, I know you are hurting, but we didn't mean to hurt you. We are just two people in love, Felix said, but William shut him up. Shut up, Dad! You did not only betray me, you betrayed Mom. Prince is 9 years old. Mom died 7 years ago. How could you do that, Dad? Unable to contain his anger, William turned and left the house. As William sat at the bar drinking, his mind went through everything that had happened since he met Linda. How could the woman he loved for 11 years and the man he called dad for 36 years betray him like that? Was his father right? Was he impotent? William knew that what they did was not justifiable, but he needed to know if what his father said was true. So he decided to wait a week for the alcohol in his system to clear. Then he went to another hospital to do another fertility check. During that week he was waiting, Linda and his father lived like a couple. Though Felix was cautious, Linda called him darling and her love in William's presence. It was as if she was finally free to be herself. that she completely ignored William's feelings. He couldn't believe she wasn't remorseful at all. For 11 years, he had devoted his life to her. He hadn't even looked lustfully at any woman in 11 years. Yet the woman he loved did not only cheat on him with his father, she treated him callously as if his feelings didn't matter. When the results of the fertility test came out, it was obvious his father lied, and that angered Williams the more. How dare he try to justify his actions by lying against him? How dare he try to blame him for their sin? That evening, after the children had gone to bed, Linda and Felix, as usual, were watching a late night movie when William approached them. Linda, Felix, I want both of you out of my house and take your children with you. At his announcement, Linda sobered up. She immediately became remorseful and pleaded with him not to throw them out. Williams, those are your children too. They've called you dad all their life. What will you tell them? How can you throw them out of their home? She lamented, trying to guilt trip him. But William told her the children were not his, so they were no longer his business. He loved those kids. They've called him dad since they were born. He had been part of their lives even before they were born, but at that moment, he couldn't stand seeing those two adulterers. He needed them gone. You have 2 weeks to move out. I don't want to see any of you in my house when I come back, William declared and left the house. For 2 weeks, he stayed in a hotel, giving them a chance to move out. For those 2 weeks, his friend asked what was wrong with him, but William remained mute. He was too embarrassed to tell them what was going on, so he avoided them. Meanwhile, Linda hashed out a plan to get rid of William permanently. She did not earn a living, neither did her lover, so no way will she live her comfortable life into the unknown. He has to die, she said to Felix one day. Who has to die? He asked. Williams, of course. He must die, and once he dies, everything will be ours. We will finally be free to be a family. Felix argued that they cannot kill Williams. He is his son. But Linda reminded him that William was no longer his only child. Now he had other children to continue his lineage. Felix didn't want to do it, but Linda argued that they had no choice. They had no money of their own and had nowhere to go. William's parents were not rich. William had to work hard to afford the life they had, so they all depended on him. Do you want our children to become homeless? What will people say if they found out about us? They will label our children names, but if William dies, I will become a widow, and no one will say anything if we continue to live together. She argued, and in the end, Felix agreed with her. So Linda suggested they should poison Williams. She reasoned that if he dies at home, they will simply tell people that he went to bed and never woke up. She even said they could frame the cook for it to be on the safe side. The cook was a young boy of 23 who bore no grudges against William. What reason could they give as the boy's motive for the crime? Felix asked. Let's claim that William molested the boy and forced him to keep quiet. Nobody will believe the boy against us, she said. And Felix agreed. With this, they could tarnish William's image while getting rid of him. That way, the police will not investigate further. As for the cook, let him deny as much as he wants. Nobody would believe him. It was a perfect plan, but unbeknownst to them, the maid overheard their conversation. The maid was loyal to William, who had been good to her and her family. William was a good and caring boss who made sure his domestic staff and their family were taken care of. So the maid did not want any bad thing to happen to him. The evening that William was supposed to be back, on the guise of running a personal errand, the maid went outside their house to wait for him. When she saw William, she stopped him and told him everything she heard. William was shocked. Why would his father want him dead? Where was the sweet, innocent girl he fell in love with? It was hard for him to believe, but considering what they've already done, he believed the maid. So after listening to her, he called the cook to meet him outside. The young boy was shocked to hear what his madam had planned for him, and together they devised a way to save themselves and trap the evildoers. That evening, Linda pleaded with Williams to forgive them. She promised to do whatever he wanted if he promised not to throw them out. William knew she was pretending, so he told her that he would think about it. Later, she asked the cook to serve his meal. When the cook served William's meal, Linda sent him away and quickly added poison to the food. The maid hidden nearby recorded Linda with her phone. After Linda left, the maid swapped the poisoned meal with the safe one. Williams came down, ate the food, and pretended to be dead. Quickly, Linda and Felix called the police and accused the cook of killing his master. The boy tried to defend himself, but the police were not listening to him. Suddenly, William stood up from the ground, shocking everyone. The police, confused, asked what was going on, so the maid narrated everything to them. Linda tried to deny it, but the maid presented the video she had recorded. So Linda and Felix were arrested and sentenced to 20 years in prison for attempted murder. William divorced Linda while she was in prison. Later, he remarried and had a beautiful daughter. He and his new wife raised all four children as their own, providing them with a loving home. One evening, Prince, now a teenager, approached William with a thoughtful expression. Dad, can we talk? Of course, Prince. What's on your mind? William replied, Dad, I know about everything that happened with Mom and Grandpa, but I want you to know that I see you as my real father. You've always been there for us, and I love you very much. Tears welled up in William's eyes. Thank you, Prince. That means more to me than you can imagine. I love you all very much, and nothing will ever change that. In that moment, William realized that despite the betrayals and heartbreak, he had built a family rooted in love. Sometimes it is hard thinking about everything that had happened. Or looking at his children, he knew it was worth it.